it's just airy, and almost unbelievable. But, to be actually inside there.
It's hard to believe that so many people were killed in such a minimal space. I'm having a hard time with this.
I am.
On their first full day, the 40 Pittsburgh teachers and 3 Holocaust survivors came to the Majdanek concentration camp in central Poland. That tapping sound you hear is a hard, steady rain. The dark skies, some said, seemed fitting. David Lyons has taught world history for 39 years at North Catholic High School.
Being a history teacher, I thought it was, something that I couldn't pass up. And, just the gravity of the whole situation and, what happened, it's something that I get a chance to in a history class to bring back some reality and the things that, they said it wouldn't happen or couldn't happen, but it certainly can happen.
The group from Pittsburgh, along with other groups from around the world, approached the main entrance, now covered by a gigantic sculpture, a memorial to the victims. The Majdanek labor and death camp, now a museum, seems perfectly preserved. There are 250 prisoners' barracks. The guard towers stand outside the double barbed wire fencing, with electrified, slanted barbed wire in the middle of the twin fencing. There was no escaping Majdanek, and some 350,000 people died here. Most in gas chambers, the rest were starved to death or shot. The Pittsburgh group walked through the mud, past the white farmhouse building which housed the commandant and the SS. The group entered the first building the same way Holocaust victims did. This is where victims first stripped, then entered the shower room. It is where the Zyklon B gas canisters are piled up, where victims were gassed to death. Blue permanent stains on the ceilings were left by the Zyklon B.
I was under the impression they pumped the cyclone gas from underneath. No,
the pellets would drop always from the top.
It became difficult for some Pittsburgh teachers. Joelle Armenti of Brashear High School is consoled by one of the other educators. The face of Charlotte Kelly, who teaches at Pittsburgh's Lecce School. The group came out of the shower building shaken.
To be actually inside there, see how dark it was, and more or less imagine what some of those people were feeling or sensing, and just the enormity of what was taking place. It's just shocking, just shocking.
They moved on to see the original blue-striped uniforms, the walls covered with the faces of the murdered, the wooden bunks once crowded with victims. In some buildings, simple plastic tarps stuffed with hay were used as beds. The courtyards, where victims were forced to stand at attention for 8 hours at a time, and if they moved or got tired, they were shot.
It was just chance that wasn't, my family,
And these large wire bins filled with thousands of shoes, adult and children's shoes, worn by those who were exterminated.
I just feel like you feel presences and hear voices and stuff. It's hard to, it doesn't seem like it was, 50, 60 years ago. It seems like it could have been yesterday. It just, time seems to blur. It is emotional, I am.
I think it's emotionally wrenching. It's horrifying to know that these Nazis, they were not human beings. Human beings aren't capable of that. Nobody could do that to another human being.
For the Pittsburgh area teachers, words, they say, can't describe what they saw here at Majdanek. But perhaps the most powerful, the most emotional experience came inside the building behind me. That is the crematorium. interfaith Pittsburgh group sang songs of peace. They prayed together, steps away from the ovens, as they're called. They placed candles in remembrance. It is here the Nazis placed the bodies of those gassed onto these cast iron railings to shove the bodies into the red brick incinerators. After 60 years, ashes are still visible, caked inside the ovens. Too much to take for some in the Pittsburgh group. The group also placed candles on the so-called dissection table. Before bodies were placed into the incinerators, the Nazis would extract silver or gold tooth fillings or anything else valuable. While Christians and Jews from Pittsburgh cried, hugged each other, left candles and flowers, Sister Laura Coughlin of Seton LaSalle High School reflected about what is to be learned.
The only thing that's important really is to love one another. So I believe that is the thing that will really stop this from happening again. So when people say never again, we have to make a choice to love one another, to respect one another as human beings. And when we don't make that choice, this sort of thing can happen.
This day at Majdanek was a day not to be forgotten. Emotionally overwhelming, yes. These human incinerators became the best example of that dark history. But the next day, hope would rise from the darkness. 18,000 people from 50 countries marching for hope that never again will we see a calculated effort to exterminate entire races of people. The March of the Living, occurring at Auschwitz-Birkenau, the twin camps in southwest Poland. They marched under gray skies, in the rain. The walk was symbolic of the final journey as prisoners were herded 2 miles from the Auschwitz working camp to the Birkenau death camp. During the Holocaust, the cattle cars rolled through this arched gate and unloaded the human cargo to be exterminated. 1.6 million people were gassed and incinerated here. 1.4 million were Jews. In the throngs of marchers at the bottom of your screen, a group wearing bright yellow hats with the word Pittsburgh on the front. The group was proud to be here, proud to assist in worldwide remembrance and hope.
I love Pittsburgh, and I love the people of Pittsburgh, overloading for everybody, but everybody keeping it together and supporting each other.
They marched into Birkenau and prepared to join the massive crowd for a ceremony. Giant screens flanked the stage as names of the Holocaust victims were announced and archival pictures shown. Security was tight. Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon arrived, as did dignitaries and guests from numerous countries. Included American soap star Eric Braeden of The Young and the Restless, German-born, invited here by Ariel Sharon. Braeden has for years worked off-screen for unity among ethnic groups.
This obviously was the worst example of what happens when there is religious prejudice, ethnic prejudice. We must do everything in our power to never that to happen again. If there's an example of what can be done, it is the United States of America, where you have various peoples from all over the world live together under a democratic system. And I think the process of democratization in the world has to be continued to make sure that this sort of thing never happens again.
We're here today with a large group from Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Your impressions of 18,000 plus people and what you've seen so far, 50 countries.
It's overwhelming and heartwarming. And I think it speaks well for the future.
An Israeli choir performed. Ariel Sharon spoke in Hebrew, remembering the victims and urging younger generations to never let it happen again. The March of the Living is designed not only to remember, but to educate. Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel was one of the few to speak in English.
This place is a special place. It is special because people made it special. Especially atrocious, especially inhuman. In this place of misfortune, malediction, and darkness, a few steps from where we stand now, the history of humanity has stumbled into an abyss of unparalleled deceit, cruelty, and calculated savagery. Men, women, and children were driven from sealed cattle cars straight to the so-called showers, where, in unspeakable agony, they watched each other as they desperately tried to catch a last breath, and were robbed of the last dignity granted to all humans, the dignity of dying in peace.
While the Pittsburgh contingent mixed in with the international crowd, other marchers walked the camp, looking inside the windows, lighting candles inside barracks, writing remembrances and attaching them to the railroad tracks, witnessing the wooden bunks where 10 to 20 would sleep together. Here at this place, Auschwitz-Birkenau, an estimated 15,000 Jews were murdered every single day. It is often referred to as the mother of all concentration camps. And to close the ceremony, large torches were lit on the roof of the Birkenau crematorium, flames symbolizing unity. The Pittsburgh visitors were moved. What will you tell your students about today?
That we've been charged with never forgetting, to always remember to never let it happen again, to try to end racism and discrimination.
We encountered 85-year-old Alexander Kalish, who lives in Berlin, Germany. He doesn't speak English. He's a survivor who lost his entire family in the Holocaust, an elderly man who felt hopeful when seeing this crowd.
But it's good to see so many young people from all over the world. Not forget and to pass it over to the next generation.
And the visitors from Pittsburgh echoed that.
It's very bonding, I think, to have everybody come here together for one common theme.